Welcome back, everybody. It's Anime Lockdown. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Veronica Taylor. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me at this convention.
So we really appreciate you joining us. A lot of people are really excited to talk to you. We got a lot of questions already prepared from people that asked in advance. But before we get
Awesome.
into the questions, I wanted to ask, just with how things have changed so much in the industry, how have things been different for you? How every time I talk to you, you seem to be in a session. How's that changed?
Well, first, I just want to start out by saying hello to everyone who's joined us. I hope everyone is feeling well. I hope that your family is feeling well. I think this whole time has been so chaotic and stressful and sad. And we all, I was saying to you earlier, John Paul, that thank you so much for organizing this and having a place where we can all come together as we are separately together. I think our anime community, our Comic Con sci-fi community, comic book, it's really important. And all along, it's been such, going to a convention has been such a way for all of us to support one another and support creativity and imagination. And this is just one way that we can try to do this now in this time of isolation. So thank you so much. I also want to let everyone know that I cannot see the chat going by. So if you say something specific to me, I'm not going to read it right now. So I can't respond directly to that. So I'm not ignoring you. But just so everyone knows, but I feel quite honored to be part of this. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who's popped in for this. How have things changed? Well, as a voice actor, I'm in my booth a lot and I'm often alone, but I more often have the opportunity to go and work with people face to face. And I just saw this thing on the news today where this guy was talking about how important touch is, appropriate, of course, but how a hug can actually help you get over a, how it can prevent you from getting sick. And even though when I go to work, I don't hug everyone, we at least can shake hands, or we're together, or at a break from doing an audiobook, we sit and have lunch together. And all of these things that are community and family are so important. And you don't realize that until you don't have it. And even today, I'm coming down with a bit of a cold, and it's just my daughter and myself here in our apartment. And yet I'm still not feeling well. How is that possible? Because I'm not even outside. So I think we all have to take a minute towards self-care, and realize how important those tiny things are. So for that, I've been in my booth a lot, recording. I have, things have been busy. I certainly am not working as much as I usually do, but I'm working on some audiobooks and some video games, and I have auditions for commercials and other cartoons. So all of that stuff is still going, even though we're not sure how it will continue. But it looks like we will have this some sort of isolation for quite some time to come. So I think the whole industry is really adapting through, technically, through Zoom and Skype and Source Connect, with this through Discord.
That's yeah,
This
it's
answer on record.
that's what kind of setup do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
So I have a laptop. I use a Mac. I've always used a Mac. So, but I have that. I have a Neumann TLM 103 mic. I go through a Focusrite, and I also have the Duet, which is where the Pro Tools runs through, which I use on my computer.
That sounds like the same setup that Kyle talked about. That's awesome. It's a
Yeah,
very good combination.
really great. I moved to Los Angeles about 5 years ago from New York, and we there was a couple studios that I worked with all the time, and we really tried to figure out the best way for me to continue working with them.
Hmm.
And the John Marshall Media, actually, they helped me set up my whole booth. And I have a closet here that I use, which is, I mean, it's a tiny sit-in closet, but it's the biggest closet I've ever had. Um, and I have a small apartment, but it's a nice sized closet. So that was why we moved in. Should I say that?
Well, I think that we are going to get into the voicemail first. Hopefully, you're able to hear these.
Okay.
So this first one, it looks like it's about your your early roles.
Hey, Veronica Taylor, I got another question.
Okay.
What was your first anime role like?
Gosh, what was it like? I auditioned for an anime, and I guess I'd never had any trouble matching the lip flap. I think all of my acting skills really kind of come together when I dub something or when I'm doing an audiobook or anything like that. So as an actor, you have to um, make quick adjustments. I think that might be the best way to put it. So to be able to quickly skim the script and then like kind of get to know what you're saying and then match the flap right away, it wasn't a problem for me. I didn't have a very big role. I think that was Area 88 maybe. But Slayers was my next. I think Slayers was my next anime that I had for a while. So all of it, everything is always a grand new adventure because you usually enter into anime, especially you just jump in and you never see the script ahead, you don't see the picture ahead, you don't know what's going on, you just kind of jump in and start acting. So I think that's why I have a bachelor's and a master's in acting, and I think I use those skills every day that I learned in school.
Awesome. This next one is kind of along the same lines.
Hi, Veronica. This is Matthew Wood from Florida. I was wondering, whenever you did the voice of Ash on Pokemon, when you first auditioned, did you actually audition for any other characters to begin with or want to be any of the other characters to begin with? I was wondering how that audition process kind of went. I hope you get to my question. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so I'm sure I auditioned for some other roles, but I honestly can't remember exactly. I do remember going in, we got to watch a short clip of Pokemon, and then we did the lines and matched to the flap. So I don't remember how many characters we auditioned for right away. It may have only been Ash, Brock, Misty at the time. I don't have a clear recollection of that. But what was the rest of the question?
They were just asking about how the audition went.
Yeah, I mean, we auditioned and then we left. I was doing a play in outside of Boston at the time, so I had come down to audition, and then I went back up for rehearsal after that. So I a lot of my life is a blur because I do many jobs at once. So I don't remember all the specifics. I audition for so many things and don't get cast that this was kind of one in among many.
Awesome.
Keep my answers shorter in the future so we can get to more.
Oh no, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
This next one has been asked by a couple different people, so I'm wondering if this is something that you talk about at conventions a lot. I'm going to play this next one.
Hi, Veronica. For Veronica Taylor. Do you like 1980s music? Thank you.
80s music?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I went to a Tears for Fears concert. How's that for 1980s music?
Nice. Excellent. We have another, this is a quick and fun one. I'm sure you've been asked this one before, but not at this convention.
Hey, Veronica Taylor, if you could be any Pokemon, what would you be?
Oh my gosh. How could anyone, oh, my daughter's here with me. She said Trico, maybe because it's just so cool with that like stick coming out of its mouth. Yeah, Trico, so cool. Or Squirtle with the sunglasses. You know what? As a trainer, I can't imagine having to be told what to do. So being a Pokemon is like, I don't know. Oh yeah, so she said be Charizard, which is great. Breathing fire and doing whatever I want. Yeah, that's probably better. I guess she knows me better than anyone.
This next one is another fun one.
Hey, Veronica Taylor. I have another question. Could you teach me how to do the Ash voice, because I would really like to do a good impression. Thanks.
I can't teach you fully because I never want everyone to be able to take my job from me. But what I would say is how I do Ash's voice. First of all, I thought about Spritle from Speed Racer and from those Christmas stop action specials, and my little brother was 10 at the time. So all of those voices together, and also the original voice in Japanese. So that's what I kept in mind. Physically, I drop Ash's voice kind of into the back of my throat, and he can get really high if he wants, or he can get really low if he's disappointed. And I move it around in there. There's a little resonance in my nose, and but most of all, it's in the back of my throat. So it's not the most vocally hygienic voice, but it works.
Incredible. As long as we're on Ash.
Ash's voice is a good party trick.
So this next question, this is from Johnny Garfield, but I'm going to combine it with one of the questions that I wrote because it's kind of along the same lines. They said, looking back at voicing Ash, what are some sentiments about having been involved in such an influential anime? And then the part that I would ask is, did anybody know how big it was going to become when you started working on it?
Yeah, well, to answer that, I don't think anyone had any idea. I don't even think 4Kids really did when they acquired it. But everyone was, just doing their best. It was big in Japan already. And then we all kind of in the United States came to know it because all those children had seizures, and it was in the news because of that. And then oddly enough, I still auditioned for it. But so I don't know what that says about me. But I don't think anyone knew it would be so big. I think, first of all, as an actor, I've never had a job that I've worked on for 8 years, 8 wonderful years. It's so great to have, like, every week, you're going to have, a couple hours to go in and work on something, to get to know a character so that you just understand who he is, makes dubbing it so much easier. I loved working on the show. I loved all the people I got to work with. When you dub anime, you go in the booth, you're by yourself. You have a great engineer and a great director, and it's just the three of you, really. You're never in the booth with other people. So limit effort in a sense of in that moment, but so many people come together to write it, to mix it, and originally in Japan to create everything. But so the job in and of itself was fantastic, but more dear to me is the fact that I've gotten to go around the world and meet people at conventions, to talk to people, hear their stories of watching it and how they bonded with their friends, I've heard, it's the stories that have been the most amazing, because people saying, I met my partner through a forum, through playing a Pokemon game, you name the game, through, I used to go to my grandmother's house after school and we watched it together. I got up and watched it with one of my siblings. I played the game at school. We all were the characters, all of these things, on. And to be a part of people's lives and their families, and now to come together. And in the old days when we would come together and hug, and I would meet so many people, and just to know that our lives have come to that point, and we were friends before, but after meeting at a convention, we leave as friends in a different way, and our journey takes on greater meaning. So that's been the most incredible part for me, that doing a show could translate into so much more. and for me, so more meaning, which is real, you know?
It's an excellent answer. Is that a cell phone that just went off?
It was. I have friends texting me, and I forgot to turn this off.
That's okay.
But now it is gone.
Thank you so much. So this next question.
I just want you to think I'm popular. I'm so lonely.
Oh no, this is from RF Zatone. I don't know how they pronounce that.
Okay.
They're asking what it was like working on Dragon Ball Super.
Super fun, actually. I got to do that in Los Angeles. They do most of the show in Texas, but they have recently made it possible for people to work on the show not in Texas. So I'm quite honored for that. Being Brienne was an amazingly fun time because she's so crazy, and to be fighting with love and so over the top and literally larger than life. Really fun. And everybody who works on that show was really super too.
This next one,
We
Psychotic.
had fun recording.
Sorry.
Mhm.
This next one is from
Nope.
Psychotic Antagony. Have you ever played a character that you really connected with on a personal level?
I think I kind of connect with all of them, even if they are bad people or good people. That's the job of an actor, is to kind of get to the heart of each individual character. So you do connect a bit of yourself with them. But I would say overall, Ash is probably closer to the energy that I have, in terms of he has such a positive energy. I've played a lot of sports, and to get to be so physical with a role, because he's always running or fighting or something, or I should say competing, not fighting. I think he's closest to me in that sense.
This next
I
one.
mean, I think Ribrianne is second. We look a lot alike now.
This one is from Drawsome the Wizard, and they're asking about your experience working on Sailor Moon. I guess what that was like.
Yeah, the thing with dubbing all of these is that you never get to see the whole piece that you're working on until you see it later. So the only downside to Sailor Pluto is that she doesn't have that many lines. So I'm not in each episode physically all the time. So I don't often know what the whole episode is about. So I leave often with more questions than I went in with. But I admire that character because she is so alone, and yet she feels so deeply towards others. She's so protective that she's really willing to give her life for the ultimate protection and sacrifice, and that she so patiently guards the portal to space and time. And I find her quite interesting for that. And it's hard to play that character because she's so reserved that we actually had to go back and re-record things because there was too much emotion in it. So that's a big challenge for me.
This one is Atomic Ponky, I think. I'm going to rephrase this a little bit. They're asking about your process in when you figure out what kind of voice to use for a character.
So when I get an audition, you get the lines that they want you to say. You get a description of the character, which often is age, and something about their temperament, and sometimes about their past, like difficult home life or lots of energy, or lives alone but is now living with someone else, or things like that. And sometimes you get a picture with it, so that way you can focus more on what the character looks like rather than you making it up. But really, it's all in your imagination. So then I kind of let that filter in and figure out how the person would stand, and where their energy is coming from, and in that sense, where their voice is coming from. So you could have, let's say you can have a 5-year-old girl, and this girl is kind of studious, but let's say she's really mad, and maybe she's always like this instead. Or maybe you have a 5-year-old who is very sweet but shy. And so even with those three, you can shift it, even though it's kind of in the same area. And then you figure out how you want to move the voice along, and how you, I guess, like how mad do they get? How can you show that in the audition with the few lines that they've given you?
This next one is an interesting question from Pokemon trainer Jikichi, I think. The skit that the skit that they're referring to, I'm not familiar with. Maybe you'll remember it. They're talking about a skit that you did with Pro ZD, and they're asking, they're asking what if there's any rules when working on fan projects and using established voices such as Ash.
So I don't work on Pokemon anymore. And so in that sense, there are no rules for that because I'm not under contract. I would imagine for other that people ever really want me to use out and about. But for other things, I would imagine there are rules for that. And you still, I definitely will only say certain things. And if I don't understand the quote, like I do, those little videos for that people ask for Celeb VM or Connect. I forget, they've changed their name, but Celeb VM. But for those things, if someone says, can you do this as Ash and say this quote? I won't say it if I don't understand what it's for, because Ash to me is all about, again, positivity, and he wants to help people, and he's quite loving in that sense, and he wouldn't say anything negative. And so I wouldn't do that in his voice either, because I think it dishonors the character, and I think it dishonors what the memories people have of that character. So with that, I was connected to him, and he had sent the lines for me to record. So I did, but I had some questions before I did it about how he was going to be putting it together and stuff like that. So I don't do a lot of that, and I try to be quite responsible.
That makes a lot of sense. This one is from Decana, and they're asking, what is the hardest character that you've had to say goodbye to?
In a sense, my answers are always the same. All of them, because you get a connection and you don't really want it to end. I played Amelia in Slayers for a while also, and I loved that series. It was so weird and fun, and but when you work on anything, it always could be your last day. But with Pokemon, we found out that we were being replaced towards the end. Like we had maybe 10 episodes left, 6 episodes left, and that was really, really sad because there was no real explanation for why we were being replaced, and just knowing that the end was coming made it quite bittersweet. But for everything else I play, you never know if you're going to get to do it again anyway.
This next one, I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. Jen Legacy is asking, so when you're doing lines one actor at a time, obviously sometimes you're going to be the first person to do it. Sometimes you might be the last person. And they're asking if it's ever been difficult for you to keep up with the other pre-recorded dialogue.
Well, if keep up with we don't hear the pre-recorded dialogue very often. Mostly you regardless of where you enter into the schedule, you don't hear the lines before you. You're going in blind anyway, which is why I would recommend working on your cold reading skills as acting you want to do. But for dubbing especially, you are, because you're just seeing the script for the first time, you're really skimming through the script as you get to your next line, reading the line before yours to see what you're responding to, analyzing quickly what they are asking of you, and then how you are responding based on what you need from them and the situation, it's all an acting thing, but you have a minute to do that, 30 seconds to do that. So all of it, because you're working alone, you just used to it. But again, I think without my acting training, it would be much harder, because you're even doing things where sometimes you have to realize that if someone says, can I get you a glass of water? You wouldn't say, I'm not in the mood for a glass of water. That doesn't echo correctly. You would have to say, I'm not in the mood for a glass of water. You'd have to drop it down. But if you didn't read the line ahead, you wouldn't know how to respond, if that makes any sense.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. It's a very unique approach to doing things.
It's strange, and like with every acting job specifically, and I would say with any freelance job you have as an artist or a musician or anything, you're still in the moment and you're working off of everything, and you're never alone in that. You can't just do whatever you want. You have to base it off of what's already there. So you have to base your reactions off of what's in the script. But if you don't know how to read a script or how to analyze it, then you're one step behind.
So Dark Oblivion is asking if you've ever looked back on a character and wished that you had done it differently.
Well, I had one job, and I honestly don't remember the name of the project, but the character was a boy, and we got all the way to the end of it. It was an anime, and it turned out it was a girl disguised as a boy. And I was like, oh, shouldn't you have told me that from the beginning? And the guy directing it was like, it was fine. It was fine. But he didn't even know. So, yes, I had regret. I would like to have played that differently so that when you go back, you could see where she was hiding, who she was, where it might have been able to come out a little bit, that she was a girl, that she was disguised, so that there's a little more subtext to it. Because ultimately, you're playing the script, but everything has subtext. And that I have huge regrets on that, but there's absolutely nothing I could have done.
This is where to go. Julie Coe. You mentioned a little bit in the beginning about your move. They're talking about what made you decide to move to LA from New York, if there was a particular reason.
Yeah, definitely. My rent was very high in New York, and it was getting to be a breaking point. And my daughter was finishing her sophomore year in high school, and we both thought that the school wasn't right for her, and we needed something else. And there's a lot more work in LA. I think it's harder to get work out here, but there's more work for at least voice-related stuff. I think in New York there's more on camera now, but there was more voiceover here. So for those three reasons, we decided that it was time to go. So things fell into place and we made the jump. I can't say we just kind of jumped off and we were so excited, because it was really sad. We have all of our families on the East Coast, friends, people that I've worked with forever and love so dearly. And it was a very difficult move, but I think it was the right one for where we are right now. And luckily we've been able to maintain friendships and work friendships and all of that. And certainly for my daughter, it was definitely the right move.
This next one is unrelated to your work, but it's definitely related to the situation that we're in. They're asking what your favorite comfort food has been during the lockdown.
You know, we've eaten a lot of pasta.
Same.
Because it's just so fast to eat. We go to the farmer's market. It's still open here. So we've been able to have some good fresh vegetables and all of that. But oddly, to make like pasta or rice or potatoes, I love potatoes. We've had a lot of mashed potatoes or roasted potatoes, and then vegetables too. But at the same time, maybe everybody feels like it's easier to just make noodles than to roast up some great beets or carrots, or I don't know. We've been doing that too, but nothing satisfies like that. We were eating ice cream and now we've gone to yogurt with fruit. So trying to cut down, making smoothies, stuff like that. Because, you just need the comfort. Mashed potatoes or yogurt still feels like ice cream and it's a little better for you. So, but my favorite family recipe is, we call it Italian spaghetti because we got it from our Italian neighbors, but it's really carbonara, but without any sauce. So it's just we use an Irish bacon and then pasta and egg, Parmesan cheese, and that really is it pretty much all the time.
Psychotic Antagony is asking if you have a favorite anime.
I'm actually a really big Speed Racer fan. Before I really knew it was anime, I love that show. I love I do like Pokemon a lot just because I like the stories and the message. I was in Grave of the Fireflies, which I think is really incredibly beautiful and sad and poignant. Mostly I list what I've been in because those are the ones I've seen. So I do watch some anime, and especially the G Kids. They have a lot. They do the children's film festival in New York, and they have it. You can find it at gkids.com, I think. And they have so many movies that they bring in for the festival, all animation and actually some live action films too, but children's films from around the world. And so I've seen more anime through their film festivals.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
The To Crazy Dude is asking if you have this one might be difficult because I know that you work on a lot of things, but they're asking if you have a favorite line from anything that you've worked on, regardless of whether it's anime or not.
I would just say I don't have a favorite line, but I loved when after a battle and Ash was congratulating, there goes a car. Ash is congratulating Pikachu and he says, "Hey, buddy, you deserve a good long rest." And that's so much emotion, and there's just you see their bond in that. I just love that.
Do you have a favorite Pokemon episode? I know there's a lot of them to choose from.
Well, I do say the first episode because I think it sets up the whole adventure, the whole journey that we're going on. And we did record that several times to make changes and things. But I love how you really see how Ash is such a normal kid. And you see his home life, and you can relate to him getting up late and running out and being disappointed because he doesn't get what he set his sights on. And yet it turns out to be the greatest thing that ever could have happened to him. And I think it's a lesson for us in life. I think it really shows. And then also in that you see his commitment to this Pokemon that he didn't want in the first place, but knows now they're going to work together. And this is what it comes down to. He's willing to lay down his life in a way right away for Pikachu. So I would say the first episode.
This is from GW Spade. They're asking what went into your decision for the school for acting that you chose to go to.
I decide to be an actor?
Like why you chose a particular school? They said Catholic University.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So my parents went there, and I thought it was the best school for acting. I toured when I was looking at colleges. I toured many schools, as we all do. But Catholic, the teachers were extraordinary. And I thought I'm just trying to think. I never really talk about this. The method of teaching, some of the teachers were there when my parents were there, actually. And they are so good and so respected. And there was also, through that school, you could tour afterwards if you got into that touring company, which I played soccer. So that was another thing. I don't know, everything about the school really spoke to me. It was a medium to small size school, so you knew you could get to know everyone. I thought, I don't know, for that it just spoke to me. And really it comes down to when you go to the department for whichever major you're interested in, mine obviously acting, and when the head of the department is speaking to you, not your parents, and asking you questions, that makes a big difference, I think. And certainly Bill Graham, who was the head of the program at the time, spoke to me, and he was an incredible teacher, an incredible person. And I really made the right choice going there.
Yeah, it seems to have worked out very much in your favor.
Thanks. Yeah, but all of that stuff, I think no matter where you go to school is so important. And actually just going to school is important. Going to college is about learning to love learning. And at Catholic, I did learn that. I learned how to be a better student. I learned how to be a better person. I was part of an incredible soccer team. I learned about life from there. And I learned to know that I didn't learn everything there. And since then, I just try to push myself to learn as much as I possibly can, all the time. It was planted there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. This
go ahead.
is Psychotic Antagony. Have there ever been an instance where a script made you cry?
I think in the characters, I have cried. I do a lot of audiobooks, and some of them are quite emotional, and I'm certainly like sobbing when I read the book, and at the appropriate times. And then when I'm playing certain characters within the book, the problem is as you narrate, you're in your narrator voice, and then you pop into characters. So there's certainly times I've had to stop because I was crying as the character, but I couldn't cry as the narrator. But it moved me so much that I had to actually take a break. So I sound really stuffy when I start crying, so I had to make sure to keep going.
Let's see. Here is one. Oh, wait, I just lost it. I don't remember who said it because I lost the question, but they asked if you're still in touch with your old Pokemon castmates.
I am, actually. We keep in touch. We don't talk every day or every week, but we certainly all keep in touch. There's amazing people who worked on that. Voice related, director related, engineers, everybody wrote the show, everything.
This one is from NetStrike. They're asking about voice actors that you're personally a fan of, maybe people that were inspirations.
Speaking of Speed Racer again, I got to meet Peter Fernandez and Corinne Orr, who played Speed Racer and Trixie. And that was really, I don't know, that was one of those incredible things where I was like, I'm sitting at a table with them. I really respect and admire people who can use their voice who have such flexibility, and also the opportunities that they have to play so many different roles. I have, Phil Lamar, I was just watching something that he did. He's a friend of mine, Richard Horowitz. So great. You name it. I watched The Simpsons, of course, so I love that show. I don't know. There's so many people.
I'm going to be a little greedy and ask one of my questions. So
okay.
Pokemon had a lot of additional materials that people could buy. And one of the weirdest things that I ever stumbled upon was the Pokemon Christmas album. And I just wanted to know about like how that came about and the experience of singing Christmas songs as Ash and the other characters that you voiced.
Really incredible and really weird. I'm not sure how the idea came up, but basically, people working on the show wrote the songs and then did the music, and then we recorded that at really weird because we had to find studio space, and it was just kind of a strange renegade effort, and then it got put out and as a little album or CD or whatever. So it was. I thought the songs were really fun. They were so clever. We listen to it every year because it's just so weird. Um, Singing as Ash has always been one of my greatest joys. So it was really fun, but strange, and it's certainly not to burst anyone's bubble here, but it was like it was not glamorous whatsoever. We were all like, "Hey, we've got 10 minutes. Can you pop in here and let's record this song and let's, you know." There was no parties. There was no everybody getting together and singing. It was just strange like that, but it came out pretty well.
You mentioned that singing as Ash is a favorite of yours. Are there other situations where that came up? I'm not as familiar with if there was other CDs that came out.
That's it. Because all the other CDs related to Pokemon were done by the people who did the music for the show, and they did all of that themselves, and that was a whole nother thing. We were never involved in any of that. We being the actors.
Let me see. Do you have any memories from working on His and Her Circumstances?
It was another really one of my favorite shows. That I feel like the journey that Yukino takes in that is probably closest to all of us in real life. And I guess that's another one who's close to me. She could run the gamut from happy to sad to angry to like, I don't know, out of her mind in about a minute, which I think all of us do. She was in love with her classmate, and you really just see her whole life. It was a bit of a soap opera in a way, but beautiful, and the scripts were great. We had a great time working on it. I wish that had gone on, actually.
This is from Rada Owl. I'm going to rephrase this a little bit. They said, first of all, that you're always very friendly and approachable at conventions. How, because I imagine that you're missing some of that interaction. What are some things, aside from this, that you're doing to fill in that gap?
I will say that it's, even though I work alone in the booth, I really, answering questions like this makes me very self-conscious because you can't really see the person's response, and you don't, acting is a talking and listening, and I'm more uncomfortable with just the talking part. And to that end, my daughter and I especially, we do a lot of little weird videos that we post social media wise, and so we're trying to do that kind of stuff, but there's no interaction. I just miss that. I'm much more interested in hearing someone else's stories about their growing up with Pokemon than me talking about it. So I miss that, actually. So I do look forward to a time when we can all get together again. So I think the only thing I'm doing in between is just, trying to do weird little things or little posts. I will also say that posting anything on social media during this time has been very strange because I don't, we all need something to escape, but at the same time, it's hard to bridge the gravity of this moment with such lightheartedness.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I don't post anything for a few days because I'm also going through things and watching the news and talking to my family, and it's hard to just do silly things all the time. And it's also hard to post very, very sad things all the time. So I've been trying to figure out how to drive down that road and judge what people need. I find that very tricky right now. I don't know what other people have experienced. But we're all going through so much, and I just feel the need to reach out and say, I'm here for you. But it's hard to do that if you're just doing silly things. I don't know. I don't want it to seem like I'm not aware of the sadness.
Yeah, it's incredibly weird and difficult times.
Yeah, and to be like, oh, I'm so bored, and yet people are, yes, but at the same time, there's so much more to do and to learn about this, so we don't make the same mistakes again. And how is the best way to be supportive? And I don't know. It's very tricky, and I think as we move forward, as things quote open up, and we figure out how to get back together without being together, because nothing has been resolved. It's just that things are opening up, which I think makes it more scary than when we were all really locked down. It's just figuring out how to support that. My daughter graduates college next Saturday, and after that, I feel like our lives will open up a little bit because we can do funny, not studying for finals and doing, still in school. Then I think we may do a little bit more. Like I've been trying to figure out a way to do some reading for kids online, and you can't read a book that's copyrighted. So I'm trying to figure out other things that we can do because I'm stuck at home. And I haven't been able to do that yet because I still am talking to your family during this time takes up a lot of time. And between family and work, I don't have, I don't want to say the energy, but I don't have the right energy to give going online, and especially going my face online, let's say. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. It's a delicate balance.
It really is, and I just want people to know I'm so there for you, even though maybe you don't see me for a few days in between posts.
So this next one has been on the list for a while, and I'm not entirely certain what they're referencing, and I kind of want to ask it to see if you know what they're talking about. This is Bedros, and they said, "What do you think of Sarah's voice?"
Oh, that's referring to the woman who plays Ash now, and in a broader sense, the whole new cast of Pokemon. And I actually don't watch Pokemon anymore. I find it very hard to watch the faces of characters I've loved for so long, and just like feel like it's part of me, and then just see different voices coming out. I think that speaks to my own immaturity, quite honestly. But I have no comment to say about it, in the sense that certainly no judgment at all. I think it's very hard to take over a role that someone else has created at first. And it's just like when Fred Flintstone, everyone knew one voice and then that voice changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an old reference, obviously, but it's something that you just get used to. And so I actually have no comment. I think they're all doing a great job, and I think it's amazing that Pokemon has gone on for so long and it continues to go, and the joy of the show is still there and people are still enjoying it.
This next one, Wasted Ink is asking about some of your favorite directors that you've worked with.
I think the Darren Dunstan directed a lot of Pokemon towards the end. Jim Malone, Michael Hegney, we all had a great time working together. And I would say they are three of the greatest directors, because none of us really knew much about each episode when we started on it. And the fact that they could pull it all together and make it what it is really extraordinary. They're three great people. Darren especially, he's a singer, he's an actor, Jim's a singer also. And I think because they all have such a great ear for it, they were able to just, I don't know, make something out of a convoluted, I'd say, mess, actually, in the beginning, because you don't have time to prepare. So those are probably three of the best directors I've worked with. Continuing
on with that line of thought from Shweezy Peasy.
Quickly though, Susie Golddish, who I worked with at 4Kids, but also at with Sailor Moon. She too is incredible because she has to deal with so many episodes at once, and she keeps all those stories in her head and can explain stuff to you when you come in. And she actually, I should have mentioned her first, but she's really incredible.
Have you done any directing yourself, or have you wanted to?
I have wanted to. I have not, and a lot of it was my daughter was born after we finished the first season of Pokemon, so a lot of my work is better piecemeal, because then I would drop her at school, go work different sessions all over, pick her up from school. Sometimes she'd come back to the studio with me, and then even though I wasn't picking her up from high school, my schedule still kind of wove through hers. So committing to a full day of like a 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 being in the studio wasn't something I could do. And I prefer acting. So to make a commitment to direct, you really have to be there for long days. And I couldn't do that.
That makes sense. Sensitive Gino, you've kind of talked about this a little bit, but maybe at a more broader sense. Are there ever voices for characters that you've done where over time you're no longer able to do that voice?
Had that yet. Because I have my full range. Like Amelia from Slayers is a very high voice, Ash pretty low, other voices. I still have that range. Nothing has changed, luckily for me. Although I would say moving to LA has been harder on my voice than when I lived in New York. I think it's how dry it is out here. I'm an East Coaster from life. So this temperate zone is hard on me. But no, I don't have any voices I can no longer do.
I guess as a follow-up to that, what kind of things do you do to take care of your vocal cords? Like, is there a specific tea that you like to drink? Stuff like that.
I try to stay hydrated through water and also food. So certainly a lot of vegetables and like celery, things that have a lot of water content. I find when I'm like today, I have a bit of vocal loss. So coconut water, avocado, manuka honey, those things. I drink tea, but maybe for that I might make warm water and just melt some honey in it. That kind of stuff. And then I try to steam a lot too, to kind of keep things moist, if I may say that. But that's what I do. And then I try to warm up and cool down. And I don't do a lot of yelling and everything in my real life. But the weird thing is that you're working a lot or you're not working at all, and you have to keep your voice going through all of that. So I think another thing is making sure that when I talk like right now, my voice tends to drop into the back of my throat. But when I'm performing, it's a bit more front and focused. And I think that's something that wears your vocal cords when you talk. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it definitely wears on you more. I think when I'm busier, my voice lasts longer. If that makes any sense. Like
that makes perfect
sense.
The more
I use it, it's better for me. Yeah.
This is from Jas K. If you could voice any character from anime, cartoon, anything, what character would that be?
Play a superhero just because they're so fun and they get to do so much. Like Ash, constantly have all these action scenes. But the real answer is I want every role I audition for. I approach each audition as if I already have the job. And so I create the full character in my mind. And I love the challenge of creating something new and kind of digging in and finding something new, voice-wise, I guess, within myself. And so I don't know. I just want to play everything. I prefer to play something that doesn't sound like me, that's far from my own voice. That's my greatest joy.
This one is from Doug. He's asking if you have any memories from working on Gaugaigar.
I the thing about memories of it is always hard because I do like you ask me the question and I remember standing in the booth and I remember looking at the screen. So yes, that memory, but none of it's very interesting. You know, it's not like we have funny things or we pull pranks or there's a lot of outtakes because especially with anime, you're paid by the hour. So they want you to get in, do a good job, and get out. And that may sound harsh, but that's the way it is. Nobody wants you to come in and chat for a while and, you know, have lunch. We just work hard and leave. So I definitely enjoyed working on it, but I have no funny stories. You know, that's the hard thing about it. It's just hard work and you enjoy it because you're creating something magical in the moment. But usually that's all it is. That's the joy of it.
So I think I have time for about one more, and then if there's anything that you'd like to plug, we can get into that. This is from Parakeet. They're asking.
Okay.
They're asking about how difficult it is when you're voicing multiple characters in a show, switching back and forth between them. I assume that you voice, all of one character, then all of the next. But if you're doing them on the same day, what the process of getting your head into the next character is like.
Right. Well, I think that character delineation comes when you're creating the character. So you have an idea of who they are, and then you can switch back because you solidly know who they are. Yes, when you're dubbing something, you go through one whole character through the whole script, and then you go back and you do the next character. It's not hard to switch for me because I have established for myself who the character is. When you're dubbing something, when you're recording something prelay, which is the voices first and then they draw later, you do all the lines in order. So if you have 2 or 3 characters, you pop back and forth between them. And that is the same as when you're doing an audiobook, you go in order. So you have to really know who the characters are so that you can pop into the voice and then he said and pop out of it. But generally, it isn't hard if you've established all of that beforehand.
Well, it's been a blast having you on. I think a lot of people.
Of course, it's so wonderful. It's so comforting. You're the right person to host this whole anime lockdown. Congratulations on doing such a wonderful job and such a labor of love. I hope we get to meet in person at some point because you're like, I'm your number one fan right now. I think you're amazing.
That's a very special thing to hear. Pokemon was one of my first anime, so hearing that from you means a lot.
I guess I'd say, hey, John Paul, I choose you. You're awesome.
And for everybody else out there, I just want you to please stay safe. Please stay inside. And once you do start going out, remember, we all are together, but 6 feet apart. Rather 6 feet apart than 6 feet under, which is horrible to say, but a little too real right now. This has been such an honor, and I do hope we can all get together and hug at some point soon. But in the meantime, I'll keep trying to do some videos. I have it on, Twitter. I'm the Veronica T, and same with Instagram, and the Veronica Taylor on Facebook. I'm on Celeb VM, so I can give you a personal shout out. But otherwise, you can always, send me a message on social media if you have ideas for posts that I should do or my daughter and I should do. Let me know. I'm here for you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Yeah. Thanks for me too. I really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the con.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. We're going to go back to a break, and I'm going to say goodbye to Veronica privately, and then I will come back with our announcements.